The rope tightened around Lucky's neck before the question finished. March 27th, 1937. Abandoned warehouse. Red Hook, Brooklyn. 11:16 p.m. 1 second Lucky Luciano was being asked where he'd hidden $50,000 stolen from the Colombo family. The next second, 3 men had pulled the rope tight enough that breathing became a choice. Paulie, the Strangler Russo, Colombo family enforcer, 6'1", former dock worker who'd killed 2 men with his bare hands during a union dispute, hands like iron, reputation for making people talk before they stopped breathing, and he'd just put a noose around Lucky Luciano's neck and was holding the other end. "I'll ask one more time," Paulie said. His voice was Queen's Italian, hard, final. "Where's the money?" Lucky's hands were tied behind his back, rope around his neck, standing on a wooden crate, 3 inches between him and hanging, close enough to smell the hemp and oil. The rope had been thrown over a ceiling beam. Paulie held one end. 2 other men, Dominic and Carlo, stood ready to kick the crate. Nobody was coming to save him. Maya didn't know where he was. Frank thought he was in Atlantic City. Albert was in Chicago. The warehouse was silent except for Lucky's breathing. Slow, controlled, despite the rope. Paulie pulled the rope tighter. The noose cut into Lucky's throat. Air became harder to find. "You've got 10 seconds. Then Dominic kicks that crate and you hang. Your choice." Lucky looked at Paulie, looked directly into eyes that had watched men struggle and die, eyes that expected begging, then spoke, voice calm, raspy from the pressure, like he was ordering coffee. "You're making a mistake." Paulie's face twisted. "I'm making a mistake. You're the one with a rope around your neck." "Exactly," Lucky said quietly, "and you're the one holding it. Which means in about 5 minutes you're going to have a problem." "Yeah? What's that?" "You're going to have to explain to Joe Colombo why you hanged Lucky Luciano over $50,000 that I didn't steal." Dominic spoke up from the left. "Boss, maybe we should shut up," Paulie snapped. Then back to Lucky. "You didn't steal it. Your name's all over this job." "My name's on a lot of things," Lucky said. His voice was getting harder to produce. The rope was tightening. "Doesn't mean I did them. Someone set me up, used my reputation to cover their tracks." "Bullshit." "Then hang me." Lucky's voice didn't change. Still calm, still controlled. "But when Joe Colombo finds out you killed me without proof, you'll spend the rest of your life explaining why you started a war over $50,000. Carlo shifted nervously. "Paulie, maybe he's right. We don't have actual proof. We have testimony from 3 witnesses who saw his crew at the warehouse," Paulie said. "My crew?" Lucky smiled. Slightly, despite the noose. "Or someone who looked like my crew. You know how many people in New York wear suits and fedoras? You hang me based on looked like. You better hope you're right." The room went quieter, because what Lucky had just said made sense, and doubt was creeping in. 10 seconds, Paulie said, but his voice was less certain now. Lucky took as deep a breath as the rope allowed, then spoke, each word careful, precise. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take this rope off my neck, you're going to untie my hands, and you're going to let me walk out of here. Then I'm going to find out who actually stole that money, and I'm going to get it back to Joe Colombo with interest. And in 72 hours, Maya Lansky, Frank Costello, and Albert Anastasia show up at your door, and they don't ask questions with rope, they ask with bullets." The silence was complete now, because everyone in that room knew those names, knew what they represented. "You're bluffing," Paulie said. "You hang, they won't know who did it, won't they?" Lucky's voice was still calm. "You grabbed me off Mulberry Street 3 hours ago, in front of Ferrara's Bakery, at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. You think nobody saw 3 men force me into a car?" Paulie's face changed, because Lucky was right. They'd grabbed him in public, witnesses everywhere. 5 seconds, Paulie said, but the confidence was gone from his voice. 4, Lucky said. 3, 2, 1. "Make your choice, Paulie. Hang me and start a war, or let me find your money." To understand what happened next, you need to understand what Lucky had just done. In their world, being on a noose meant death. The only question was timing. Beg, buy time, hope for rescue. That was the script. Lucky had just rewritten it, hadn't begged, hadn't offered money, had turned his own execution into a negotiation, made the execution a doubt, made the choice theirs instead of his, and doubt was the most dangerous weapon in that warehouse. Paulie looked at Dominic, then at Carlo, then back at Lucky. "Get him down." "Boss," Dominic started. "I said get him down." They pulled the crate away, cut the rope, let Lucky drop to the floor. Lucky stood slowly, rubbed his neck where the rope had cut in. Red marks, would bruise, but alive. Polly walked over, stood close. You've got 72 hours to find that money. If you don't, next time there's no talking. Lucky looked at him. I'll need your files, witness statements, timeline, everything you have on the theft. You're giving me orders now. I'm telling you what I need to solve your problem. You want the money back, or you want to feel tough? Polly's jaw clenched, but he nodded to Carlo. Give him the files. Lucky took the folder, looked through it. 3 witness statements, all saying they saw Lucky Luciano's crew at the warehouse on March 20th, 7 days ago. Lucky studied the descriptions, heights, weights, clothing, then smiled slightly. These aren't my crew. How do you know? Because my crew was in Atlantic City with me that day, at a meeting with Nucky Thompson. I have 20 witnesses who can confirm it. Polly grabbed the folder back, looked at the statements. So who were they? Someone who wanted me to take the fall. Someone who knows how to dress like my men. Someone who benefits from me and Columbo going to war. Lucky looked at Polly directly. Someone inside your organization. The room went cold. You're saying one of our guys. I'm saying someone sold you out. Set up the theft. Blamed it on me. Probably planned to let you hang me, then keep the money. Lucky rubbed his neck again. Good plan. Almost worked. 72 hours, Polly said. Find them. 48, Lucky corrected. I'll have your answer in 48 hours. And Polly, when I find out who did this, you're going to owe me more than an apology. Lucky walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. One more thing. That rope trick, don't try it again. Next time I won't be alone. And Maya doesn't negotiate. Lucky left. The 3 men stood in the warehouse, Polly still holding the rope. None of them sure what had just happened. For 48 hours, Lucky worked. Maya helped track Carlo's movements. Frank checked witness statements. Albert talked to the actors Carlo had hired. One by one, the pieces came together. Carlo had gambling debts, $50,000 worth. He'd hired 3 out-of-work actors, given them suits, taught them to walk like Lucky's crew, paid them $500 each. The actors didn't even know who they were impersonating, just thought it was a job. Easy money. Carlo had watched from across the street, took photographs, made sure the witnesses saw what they were supposed to see. Then he sat back and waited for Polly to kill Lucky. Once Lucky was dead, Carlo would pay his debts and disappear. Perfect plan. Except Lucky had survived the noose. 48 hours after the warehouse, Lucky called Polly. Found your thief, Carlo. Silence on the line. What? Carlo. Your own man. He stole the 50,000, hired 3 actors to dress like my crew, set me up to take the fall, probably planning to let you kill me, then disappear with the money. How do you know? Because I tracked the actors. They told me everything. Have one of them ready to testify if you want proof. More silence. Then Paulie's voice, cold as ice. Where's Carlo now? His apartment. Still has the money. Hasn't spent a dollar. Probably waiting for things to cool down after my death. He's about to get a different kind of cooling down. That night, Lucky went to Carlo's apartment himself. Carlo answered the door. Saw Lucky. Went white. Mr. Luciano, you're alive. Disappointed. Inside the apartment, the 50,000 was spread on the table. Carlo hadn't spent a dollar. I had a rope around my neck because of you, Lucky said quietly. Touched the bruises on his throat. Had to talk my way off a noose while you sat here counting stolen money. I can explain. You set me up, hired actors, made witnesses think it was my crew. Lucky picked up the phone. Now you explain it to Paulie. No, please. Lucky dialed. Paulie, come to Carlo's apartment. Bring rope. 3 hours later, Carlo was tied to a chair in the same warehouse. Same beam, same rope. But this time, Carlo was wearing the noose. Paulie stood in front of him. Lucky stood by the wall, watching. You stole from the family, Paulie said. You blamed it on an outsider. You almost started a war. Why? Carlo was crying. I needed the money. I had debts. You thought wrong. Paulie kicked the crate. Carlo dropped. The rope caught. 3 seconds of struggling. Then stillness. Paulie turned to Lucky. We're square. Not yet. Lucky walked over. Took an envelope from his jacket. 50,000, plus 10 for the trouble. Interest. Paulie took the envelope. Opened it. Counted. Looked at Lucky. Where'd you get this? From Carlo's apartment. While you were bringing him here. That's your money. I don't touch what isn't mine. Paulie stared at Lucky for a long moment, then extended his hand. You could have kept it. Could have disappeared. Could have started that war. Could have. Lucky agreed. But then Joe Columbo would have learned I'm a thief. Bad for business. This way he learns I'm honest, and you learn not to put rope around my neck without proof." They shook hands. Lucky walked toward the door, stopped, looked at Carlo's body hanging from the beam. "That's what happens when you lie, Carlo. Not when you steal, when you lie." Lucky left the warehouse, got in his car where Maya was waiting. "How'd it go?" Maya asked. Lucky touched his neck. The rope burns were still visible. 72 hours on a noose. Found the real thief. Got paid 60,000. Not bad. Maya looked at the bruises. "Charlie, they almost doesn't count." Lucky interrupted. "What counts is I talked my way off a noose and turned an execution into a business deal." "How?" Lucky smiled. "I gave them a bigger problem than killing me. Made them realize hanging me would cost more than letting me live." Maya shook his head. "One of these days your mouth is going to get you killed." "Maybe," Lucky said, "but not today." Years later, someone asked Paulie Russo why he'd let Lucky go that night. "Because he was right," Paulie said. "If I'd hanged him without proof, I would have started a war with Maya Lansky, and that war would have cost more than 50,000. Lucky knew that. Made me know it too." "Did you regret letting him talk?" Paulie smiled. "I regret putting the rope on him in the first place. Because for the rest of my life, every time someone mentioned Lucky Luciano, I had to remember that I had him on a noose and he still talked his way out. That's not someone you hang. That's someone you respect." If this story showed you what real power looks like, hit subscribe. We're uncovering the moments when words beat weapons, when a rope around the neck became a negotiation table, when death was one kick away and Lucky Luciano negotiated his way to life. Turn on notifications. Lucky Luciano never begged, even with a noose. Drop a comment. Could you stay that calm with a rope around your neck? Lucky Luciano, the boss who turned an execution into a business deal, the strategist who proved that the right words at the right time are worth more than any weapon. Rest in power.